The three-state workflow, or three-phase workflow, has been with us since SharePoint 2007. It appears in every version of Microsoft SharePoint 2010. The three-state workflow can only be used with lists, not with libraries. But despite these limitations, it's used over and over again because it's very easy to use. First, you have to imagine what your three states might be. For example, it might be that the first state is that an item has been submitted, the second that it's been reviewed, and the third that it's been closed. Another possibility is that an item is active, an item has been handled, and an issue has been closed. So whatever the three states are, as soon as the item's posted, it will have its first state, then some action will be taken, and it will move to its second state, and a final action is taken, and it moves to its third state. If you need more than three states, this isn't your workflow. However, the three-state workflow is really easy to use and will give us a great idea of how easy it is to use all of the built-in workflows in Microsoft SharePoint 2010. We'll start by opening the list that we want to put this workflow in. We have an issues list that was created using the basic issues list template, and issue status is actually set up for a three-state workflow. I'm going to add a new item just so I can show you that drop-down. Notice three different states: active, resolved, and closed. On the ribbon, I'm going to choose List, and then choose Workflow Settings, Add a Workflow. This will take me to the list of built-in workflows that are available for this library, and here's our three-state workflow. I need to give it a unique name that describes not the type of template it is, which is three-state, but what we're actually doing with it, which is issue resolution or issue tracking. So I'm just going to call this issue tracking. Then there are two possibilities of where I might want to put the history and the task list for this particular workflow. There's already a tasks list that's built in here, and I can use it. Or if I expected this to be really high volume and the tasks list was already used for something else, I could create a new list if I wished that was simply for issue tracking. But most of the tasks on this site will be related to issue tracking, so I'm just going to use the built-in task list here on the site. Same with workflow history. This is the only workflow I have right now. This next section, Start Options, asks us to decide how we would like this particular workflow to get started, and there are actually several options. One is that anytime a user wants to kick off this workflow, they can, so they'll be doing it for an individual item. If I choose that first option, which is manual starting, I can also require that only somebody who has permissions to manage this list can start the workflow. So a user might say, I'm going to post an issue, but they actually can't start the workflow. Only a list manager can. Remember that if I do this, though, I'm putting a human back in the place where they have to monitor and they have to do follow-up. I'm far better off if I can simply imagine that every time a new item is created, I want this workflow to start. I'll still leave this manual starting just in case in the middle of a workflow something happens and I want to restart it, but normally anytime I can, I'm going to start a workflow based on something automatic. An item is created, or in the case, for example, of a document library, an item has been changed. I'm going to click Next now, and here are my workflow states. The first thing I have to do is I have to choose a field. And remember, I showed you that issue status field. There are actually three different fields that have drop-down lists in them already that have exactly three items in them: issue status, priority, and category. But issue status is what I want to use. Because that's already selected, SharePoint has also filled in the three values that were possible in that particular field: active, resolved, and closed. If, for example, I chose priority, notice that we'll read in the fields from priority. I need to specify what my steps are in my workflow. So first it says custom message. Okay, the value for the field is in the custom message, and I can include a list field. What you're seeing here under task details are all of the default settings for the first and the second states here. So the first state says that we're going to send a custom message that says workflow initiated on this particular item. And then it says a workflow has been initiated on the following list item. It shows the description, and it will show a link to the list item. I can include when it was due, and I can include who it was assigned to. I could also send a different custom message if I wished. So this is a little archaic and a little difficult to read at first, but if you walk down each of the items and notice that you have a custom message with an ID being sent to a particular person that this item was assigned to, then down below it says we're going to send an email message to the person the task was assigned to, and the subject will be the task title that was included above. In the second step then, we have the workflow changes to its middle state. The next task is a review task. And again, we're using the list field ID. We are sending information that says a review task has been assigned for this list item, who it goes to, who it was created by, and it will be sent to who it was assigned to, and the task title will appear. So in our first step, the workflow is initiated. In our second step, someone's supposed to review the task to make sure that it was done properly, and then we're all set. At the end of this second step, we move to our third state, which is completed. So we don't have any specific details to apply to that state because we move to completed as soon as this second state has been done. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It doesn't really look like anything's different in our list. It looks about the same. The only difference is if we go back to List on the List tools and I go to Workflow Settings over here and click on Workflow Settings, I can see that there's actually my issue tracking workflow is actually here, all ready to run as soon as somebody actually creates a new issue. We'll do that in the next movie.